today, what is ahead of me? We got to, and I've got to reassess the fact that if I'm going to breathe, I've got to learn how to create an environment where opportunity and blessing and where possibility is the order of the day. And that means that I have to take responsibility for where I am and make the kinds of choices that I know I need to make. Here, yes, we are a part of probably one of the most pollution-centered cities on the planet. The piers and the docks in Long Beach and in Playa and in San Pedro and other places are among the busiest on the planet. We have, as it were, one of the busiest airports on the planet, and so we are among the biggest emitters anywhere. And so to go with a business as usual model is a spiral towards our own death. I've got to get this car fixed, and so do you. We got to do plan B. Otherwise we'll be stuck on the highway of a hideous reality where we can't breathe, we can't move, and we can't live. This is the way we are. This is the place we are. This is the crisis where we find ourselves. And plan B reminds us that it's time to do something else. This was kind of the realization that the U.S. environmental specialist named Lester Brown came to an understanding. He's been an environmental consultant for maybe 50 years, as it were. He has crafted and written books that have talked about saving the planet, this sustainable place. He's talked about making sure that we move from a place of business as usual where we are depleting the soil of its resources, deforesting the environs of trees and over-harvesting from the oceans and causing havoc within our environment. He has suggested that Plan B is reusing usable and renewable energy sources and ensuring that we give back and put back in the soil that which is extracted, and using various plants and vegetables that do not deplete the soil but renew and re-enrich the soil, so that we create a cycle that is sustainable and developmental and that helps us to live. And I have the audacity to kind of posit that it didn't start with him, but I would just imagine that he got perhaps this idea from another brother who was an environmentalist by force and not by choice, who noticed as they were in the wilderness had a roadblock and a wall that the people had nothing to drink. They had come from their post-Egyptian encampment and found themselves in the wilderness of Shur. And they came to a place where the people were thirsty. And when the people wanted to drink the water, they found that the water was bitter. They couldn't drink it, they couldn't consume it. And they began to wonder, how in the world could this place be called an oasis, and it's a place where we cannot sustain ourselves? Irony of ironies, is it not? Because an oasis, after all, is a place of rest. An oasis is a place of sustainable existence. An oasis is a place where you can find all of the necessities of life. But is it not ironic in some ways that the places, Lord help me in here today, where you think you'll be able to find rest are the very places where you can't find comfort and what you need? Lord help us in here. What a crisis of circumstances, is it not? When the places you think you'll be able to find comfort and kindness and acceptance and receptivity are the very places that repel you, that are bitter. But that's a part of what life oftentimes offers us. That just because we are under the direction of the Lord, just because we are being led out of captivity, doesn't mean that our every experience is always going to be, at least initially, a positive one. Yet the crisis should not cause us to do brothers and sisters began to do. It wasn't even 3 days from the time that God had led them into the wilderness, from the encampment, as it were, just at the Red Sea, when God had shown his mighty hand and had given them victory, leading them across the Red Sea on dry land. In fact, when you look at the previous verses of chapter 15, yes, they had a soul train party with Miriam leading with a whole band. It was a praise party. They even cut a CD. God got us out and God blessed us and brought us through. But amazingly enough, Spirit of God, help me, how these folk had limited remembrance and they got a spiritual Alzheimer's, because just as soon as God blessed them, they forgot who it was that blessed them and got into being so concerned about what they were seeing right in front of them. Irony upon ironies, is it not? But perhaps the real irony is not the fact that the oasis was not the oasis they wanted, but perhaps the real irony is that even after God blessed them, they still mumbled and grumbled when they came to a brand new experience. Spirit of God, help me, because I think I lost everybody. Let me see if I can come back and get you. What I'm suggesting to you is that the real crisis, Lord help me in here, is not what's happening in the sense of what's happening around them, but the real crisis is what's happened in them. Spirit of God, help me. The real crisis is not so much the fact that the water was bitter, but the real crisis is the fact that the people would not believe. Help me here, Holy Ghost. Because, brothers and sisters, it really is a secondary item or issue when it has to do with what we encounter. The real critical thing is, where are we and who are we believing in when we encounter whatever it is we come to? And I would submit to you that when we are grounded and rooted in what we believe, it doesn't matter what comes our way, or it doesn't matter what we face, because we know in whom we have believed. And no matter what it is, we will come out on top. I don't have to know how I'm going to make it through this crisis. I don't have to know how I'm going to make it through this situation on my job. I don't have to know how I'm going to make it through this situation with my car. All I know is I still owe, but somehow or another, they ain't giving me no more tickets and they ain't messing with me no more. I don't know why, I don't know how, but I thank God in the process. I don't know how he cloaks it. I don't know how he hides it. I don't know what he does. I don't have to know all that. All I need to know is the Lord is my shepherd, and I shall. Spirit of God, help a black man in here. I ain't got to know how I'm going to pay my bills. I don't know how I'm going to always make ends meet, but I do know the fact that in spite of what I may have lost, as long as he's walking with me, I will see the salvation of the Lord. And brothers and sisters, I want to encourage you to realize that the real crisis oftentimes is not what's happening in the natural, but the real crisis is what's happening in the supernatural. Because if I can stay connected to God, if I can stay connected to my faith, if I can continue to trust in the Lord, no matter what comes my way, I will see the victory of the Lord. Here, the crisis has pushed Moses to a place where instead of worrying as the children of Israel are, grumbling and mumbling about what's wrong, Moses goes into prayer. Spirit of God, help me in here. And that's why I want to encourage those of us who are in the midst of a crisis, an intensive season in our own lives, is to remember that no matter what you're facing, try to remember to get to a place where you can pray, where in spite of what other people are doing, you take time to open your mouth and ask God for direction. Regardless of what people are saying to you, make sure you are speaking to God, because what folk will do is get you tied up and tangled up in what's wrong instead of helping you to see who's right and who can make things right. God help me. That's what folk will do. They'll get tied up in what's happening and not encourage you to lift holy hands and believe God is able. God help me in here. What you've got to realize is every crisis, it's not a problem, it's an opportunity to pray. That every trial is not a time to give up, but it's a time to lift your head up. Every time you come into a place where your back is up against the wall, just begin to tell the wall to move, because know. Spirit of God, help me in here. That's the problem with too many of us. We try to anthropomorphize God. We try, yes, to put on God, or try to see God through the lens of our own limitations. God, help me. We think that because we can't do it, God can't do it. And you know, that's almost a kind of self-deification, as if you are the end all and the perimeters and the extensions of all that's possible. How dare you think that you can outthink what God is going to do? How dare you think you can tell God what's possible? What you need to do is lift your eyes to the hills from whence cometh your help and declare, Lord, I can't see it, but I know you can. And when you trust God and lean not to your own understanding, but yes, in all your ways acknowledge Him, God will direct your path. Proverbs 3:5-6. Here Moses discerns that I have to trust God. He's seen the smoke that's led them out of Egypt by day. It wasn't the smoke caused by the incineration of trash, but it was the smoke of a God who was bringing them to triumph. He saw the fire by night burning in his spirit, and he realized that that was God who was leading them in the midst of the wintering night, not the fire that was burning just because he was burning something up, but the fire that was leading him to a brand new place in blazing